Testing.
Okay, yeah, you're good.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Temple Buddhist Center's Sunday meditation service. My name is Victor, and I'm honored to be of service this morning. And I just want to wish everyone a very, very happy Vesak, or in the case of all of the folks here in Kansas City, Vesok. Many of you may not know, but it's raining very heavily here in Kansas City. So for those of you joining us from around the world, thank you for being a part of our service this morning and joining us. A wonderful, happy celebration today. We do have cake available after the service downstairs in Unity Hall, along with some coffee, tea, and cookies. Things like that are available. For those of you joining us online, we haven't yet figured out how to do a digital cake, but we're working on it. Our media magician, Eric, can do pretty much anything, so I don't put that past him. So again, we want to welcome everyone today. We hope that our service finds you all very happy and healthy, but please know that if you are struggling in any way, we hope that our service today can be a source of refuge, a source of strength for you as we open our hearts to you and to your family. Let's begin this morning with a few conscious breaths. A conscious breath is where you breathe deeply through the nose, hold that breath for a few moments, and then release slowly so that the exhale is longer than the inhale. Let's begin. Holding that breath for just a moment, ventilating this precious human form. And releasing slowly. Good. And as you release, it's okay to check in with the body, making sure that if there are any points of tension or contraction, that you are able to stretch or wiggle or breathe through that to help partner with the body to find a deeper state of ease and relaxation. And a second conscious breath together. And as you release, giving yourself permission to release and let go of that energy that is required for going and doing as we cultivate together the energy of being. That energy that requires nothing of us and is a constant source of vitality and essence. And a third conscious breath together. And releasing. And as you release, I invite you to bring into your awareness now the present moment. There is just this. And then there is everything else. The present moment might seem like a small increment of time, but it has no beginning and no ending, and we are always arriving in the here and the now. And when we're in the present moment, we share this with all beings in all places. So here at Temple Buddhist Center, we like to begin our services with a little bit of chanting. Chanting is an integral part of every tradition. Chanting is not about being a singer, it's about having a voice. It's about a deeply devotional expression of that which is sacred within you and sharing that with the world. It's also about uniting. It's a symbolic way for us to unite our voices together in the same way that our consciousness is united even now. Our chant today is Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dharmam Saranam Gacchami, and Sangham Saranam Gacchami. We'll recite this chant 3 times, and of course it represents the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, which I'll talk about more in just a minute. And so let's invite Rochelle to tone us in as we take a conscious breath together. Let's begin. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dharmam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Buddham saranam gacchami, Dharmam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Buddham saranam gacchami, Dharmam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, where we take refuge. And before I talk a little bit more about that, I want to welcome Lindsay and the kiddos this morning. Hi, you guys. Thank you very much for joining us. I know that now you've completed drawing off. What are you guys going to be doing today?
Today we are going to be celebrating Vesak, and we're going to make a flower mandala and some prayer flags.
Wonderful. For those of you that might not have been able to hear today, Lindsay and the kids will be celebrating Vesak, of course. They're going to be working with a flower mandala and also making some prayer flags. Awesome. Looking forward to seeing that and sharing that with you guys. And don't forget about the cake. Did I mention there was cake? All right. Thank you, guys. So again, welcome to Temple Buddhist Center. Here at TBC, we practice Western Buddhism. Western Buddhism is a blend of Eastern philosophy and Western psychology. And this new and exciting form of spirituality brings together important aspects of the Buddhist practice. And this new spirituality is dynamic, it is active, it is inclusive, and focuses on core Buddhist insights as well as mindfulness, meditation, and their practical applications in our daily lives. Our goal here is not to get everyone to agree on a specific lineage or philosophy or sect of Buddhism, but rather it is on a shared experience of mindfulness, oneness, and love. Whether we are chanting together, sharing from the heart, or spending time in noble silence, we respect that you will participate at a level that is comfortable for you. We take refuge in the 3 jewels and acknowledge these core values as expressions of the awakened mind, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. We value awareness of our Buddha nature, as well as the Buddha nature of all beings, bringing a fresh, new perspective to each and every encounter. The second jewel is the Dharma, the truth teachings that release us from fear and delusion and help us to realize the true nature of who we are. And finally, the Sangha, our spiritual community, where we come together to practice the teachings and to help each other along every step of the path. And so at this point, if you have not, let's go ahead and silence any and all electronic devices. And if you're at home, whatever you need to do to prepare your environment for a time in meditation. We will begin with the prayer of refuge, which is right here on the screen behind us. And then from there, we will move into noble silence or into stillness and peace with a more formal silent meditation. And so let's take a conscious breath together. And let's begin. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. And so as we prepare now for a time in meditation, if you have an extensive practice, then we invite you to practice in a way that is fitting for you this morning. Also, a reminder that there are cushions up front for those of you that might want to sit cross-legged or on a cushion. Also, there are some blankets, tissues, throat lozengers, and listening devices at the table at the back of the meditation hall. And for those of you that might be new to meditation, we're going to begin with a dedication of intention. We will awaken the bell 3 times for the 3 jewels. And then our teacher today, Mr. Robert Brumet, will lead us in a guided meditation that's designed to assist you in moving into the stillness. And so with that, let's take a conscious breath together. Body, speech, and mind, in perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness, transcend the path of anxiety and sorrow, and realize the true nature of who they are.
As we listen to the sound of the bell, we hear it fading into the silence. Let the mind fade into silence. Let the body fade into relaxation. May the heart fade into love and compassion. Letting go gently of any preoccupation with the past or with the future. Coming home to this sacred moment. Checking in with how the body feels, sitting. And if possible, to sit with the spine straight, sitting tall and alert. And taking a few deep breaths into the belly. And with each exhale, allow the body to relax, the mind to quiet, and the heart to soften. Not trying to make anything happen. Simply allow. Simply invite. And I invite you to become aware of the breath. The rhythm and the cycles of the breath. The sensations, the feelings in the body as it breathes. Allowing the body and the mind and the heart to enter into their natural state, the natural state of being. In this state of being, we open ourselves to a reality that is much deeper, much more profound than the one that most of us live in. Just sense it if you can. And if you cannot, don't worry about it. Just be with the breath. Be with the body. The eternal presence, the eternal now is always with us. Breath by breath, we go deeper, sinking into the silence, sinking deeper into the silence. Into the silence. I invite you to bring awareness to your body once again, feeling the body sitting. Just being aware of whatever you notice most prominently in the body. Feeling your arms and legs, feeling your feet on the floor, or your bottom on the cushion, contacting the earth. Being aware of thoughts that are taking place. Being aware of hearing. And in a moment, you will hear the sound of the bell. And as you do that, I would invite you to gently include seeing in your practice, so that as you open your eyes after you hear the bell, you'll be fully present in all 6 senses. Fully here, fully awake. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Happy Vesak.
Happy Vesak.
Tomorrow is the actual experience of the Vesak, which is tied to the full moon. And it follows the Christian holiday of Christmas, which is tied to the full moon in April. And the Vesak is tied to the full moon in May, month of May. So we celebrate today. Vesak celebrates the birth, the enlightenment, and the death of the Buddha. He did all of that in one day. He was quite busy that day. Actually, nobody knows the exact dates of the Buddha's birth, death, or enlightenment. So I want to tell you the story of the Buddha's birth, the Buddha's death, and the Buddha's awakening. I say the story, there's one of many stories. But actually, before I get into the story, I want to tell you one of my own stories, which just came to mind as I saw the cake up there on the screen. Many years ago, we were having a retreat somewhere in this area, and it was on the Vesak, so we were going to celebrate the Buddha's birthday. So my job was to make arrangements for the cake. And so I called Hy-Vee or somewhere and told them we wanted a cake, such and such a size, a sheet cake, white cake. And the inscription was Happy Birthday Buddha. And so I spelled B-U-D-D-H-A, letter by letter. She read it back, and I said, okay, Happy Birthday Buddha. And then they said, we'll deliver it to the retreat center. At the end of the retreat, we'll open the cake and celebrate. So we did the retreat. It was a week-long retreat with a teacher from California. And we opened the box, and the cake looked really beautiful, except it said, "Happy birthday, Bubba." So I looked at the teacher, who was from California, and I said, "Mary, welcome to Missouri." You know? We not only have the Buddha nature, but we have the Bubba nature as well. So we had a lot of fun with that afterwards, you know, that she would remind us to take refuge in our Bubba nature, and so that was great fun. Scholars have ascertained that the Buddha was born somewhere around 560 BCE, before the Common Era, before the birth of Christ. And he died approximately 480 BCE. So he was around, prior to the Greek scholars, except for the early scholars like Pythagoras and some of the very ancient scholars, teachers. India, at that time, and less so today, but historically, India was not much interested in history. They really didn't keep records because time was not important to them. They actually experienced time in a circular way, cyclical way. They saw the earth as an illusion, if you will. It was a place to do our spiritual work and take off. And so they weren't much interested in creating an identity and a history. In contrast to the Hebrews, the Jewish people, that the whole religion of Judaism is based around history and the commemoration of events and places. We don't see that so much in the Eastern practices. So there are many stories of the Buddha's birth, death, and enlightenment. They're all basically legendary, and a legend doesn't mean it's not true. It means it's not totally true. It's kind of like one of these movies we go to today that says this is based on a true story, and loosely based sometimes. So this is pretty much the same way. It's true, but it's not necessarily historically accurate 100%. The Buddha was born Siddhartha Gautama. That was his name, Siddhartha Gautama. He was a member of the Shaki clan. His father was a king in a small kingdom north of India, or northern part of India, which today I believe is actually in Nepal. So he was born into wealth and privilege. Right from his earliest memory, he was surrounded by luxury and being taken care of fully. He had to worry about nothing. He was part of the warrior caste, which next to the priestly caste, the Brahmins, was a very high caste. And so he was one of these people that would wind up in Time or People magazine, I guess, if it were published back then. You know, life stories of the enlightened and famous or something. So when he came of age, which was probably around 15 or 16, he was married. He was married to the daughter of the king of a neighboring kingdom, which was very common back then in medieval Europe as well. As you may know, that's one way to keep peace, is to make somebody a relative. At least at that time it was. I'm not sure how well it works, but you're less likely to be attacked by a king whose son or daughter is married to your son or daughter, you say. So that was their way of sealing an alliance. So he got married and had a beautiful child. He was healthy, he was intelligent, he was very handsome, and he was unhappy. And so there are stories of him wondering what the world is like outside of his palace grounds, outside of his compound. So he rarely went outside. So one day he made arrangements with the charioteer behind his father's back to go tour the countryside. And as he did, as it said, he saw things that he had never seen before. Poverty, old age, illness, sick people, dying people, dead people. And this really struck him deeply. And he said to the charioteer, "Will that happen to me?" The charioteer says, "Without a doubt, Master." And then they saw a mendicant, which was a wandering holy man that had renounced all attachments, all earthly attachments, was wandering homelessly through the village, through the countryside. And he said, "What's that?" And the charioteer explained that to him. And the Buddha says, "Wow, interesting." So he went back to the castle compound, and he was never the same after that. He couldn't sleep at night. He was restless. And he kept having visions of this tour that he took with this charioteer. And finally, he knew what he had to do. So one night, he sneaked off into the darkness, leaving everything behind. He left everything behind and went on a quest to be awakened. He was committed to finding true happiness because he realized that he had everything that most people would think would make somebody happy. He was in a very poor country, and he was very rich. And so virtually everybody aspired to be like he was someday. And there he was, born that way. And he realized that that did not bring happiness. So he wandered the countryside, and he became an ascetic, going just the opposite direction. And asceticism was very relatively common in that era, where the yogis would virtually starve themselves to death. They would meditate out in the hot sun for days on end. They would go without food and without water. They'd walk miles barefoot. And the belief was that if you could weaken the body, it would strengthen the spirit. So that the body was connected with the ego, as we would call it today, was connected with the body. And the way of escaping the ego was to really chastise the body and to weaken it and to not give it what it wants. The problem was that didn't work for him. He was able to attain very deep states of joy and bliss, transcendence. He could close his eyes and go into samadhi for days on end. But when he came out, there Siddhartha was, there his ego was, there were all of the issues that faced him when he was back in his father's castle. So he knew that didn't work, so he renounced the asceticism. And finally it says he gave up every method. And he said, I'm going to go my own way. I'm going to find this for myself. So he sat down under a tree that has become known as the Bodhi tree or the Bo tree. And he resolved that he was not going to move until he was awakened. So he sat there many days and many nights. And then, as he was getting close to awakening, the tempter, Mara, showed up. Now, Mara was not like Satan in the Hebrew Bible, Christian Bible. Mara was more of a nature spirit, but he was the spirit that kept us tied to the earth. And so he saw what the Buddha was trying to do. I'm going to lose somebody here. I better hold on to this customer, or I'll not see him anymore. So he came up to the Buddha, and he enticed the Buddha. He called forth his daughters, who were very, very beautiful. And he offered his daughters to the Buddha. And they sang and they danced and they did everything they could to seduce him. And the Buddha remained unmoved. And Mara says, well, that doesn't work, so let's try something else. So he called forth his armies. He called forth thousands of charioteers and archers and spearmen. And they threw spears and they shot arrows toward the Buddha. And every one of them turned into a flower just before it hit the Buddha. And then he called forth the forces of nature. Monsoon rains, floods, hurricanes, lightning, thunder. And in one story, it says that this great big cobra, hooded cobra, came up behind the Buddha, spread out his hood, and protected the Buddha. You may have even seen pictures of that with a cobra behind the Buddha. So the Buddha defeated Mara. And finally, Mara said, okay, good work. You did it. But I have a question for you. What gives you the right to believe that you can be awakened? Nobody else is that I know of, or I've not seen an awakened person. Who are you to believe that you can do that? And the Buddha never responded verbally, but he reached down and he touched the earth. And in some stories, it says the earth shook. Some stories, it says the earth cried out, I bear you witness. And so oftentimes, the Buddha's story is referred to as the earth is my witness. And in many statues of Buddha, there's a picture over there, you see the Buddha touching the earth with his fingers. So that's very different than in the Christian religions, where authority and power came from above. You know, we read in the Christian stories, the heavens opened and either somebody went up or God came down. But all the power and authority was in the heavens. But the Buddha touched the earth, which is indicative that the Buddhist teaching is very practical and earth-based. It doesn't rely upon some heavenly power for its authority. It comes right home to where we live in each moment. That's the practice, and that was the teaching. And as he was awakened, it says that he uttered these words, "I have passed in ignorance through a cycle of many rebirths." And it's said that before his awakening, he had a vision of 10,000 past lives that he had had. "I've passed through in ignorance through a cycle of many rebirths, seeking the builder of the house." The builder of the house is those forces which cause him to keep reincarnating. The house being the ego and the body. So what is the builder of the house? Why is it? Continuous rebirth is a painful thing. But now, house builder, I have found you out. You will not build me a house again. All your rafters are broken, your ridgepole shattered. My mind is free from active thought and has made an end of craving. So that really states the purpose of the Buddhist practice, then and even now, is that Buddhism is based on the Hindu assumption that we live in a cycle of births and rebirths. And these cycles of births and rebirths are called samsara, and they're driven by the forces of Mara, basically, of craving and aversion, of fear and anger and lust and greed. So the Buddha taught, in fact, there was one more temptation. I'll move quickly here, I'm running short of time. The Mara came to him and says, "What right do you have to teach? I think you'd be better off just getting out of here. Besides, these people are a bunch of dunderheads. They're not going to understand what you're saying. You know, just you did it. You defeated me. Now get out of here." And it was said that that was the Buddha's most difficult temptation, was the temptation not to teach. But he decided he was going to, even if there was only one person that would be awakened by his teachings. So he taught for about 45 years. This all took place when he was about 35 years old. And he taught until the age of 80. And then at the age of 80, as the story goes, he had a meal with a friend, Chanda, who provided him with some boar's meat, which was, I would guess, a luxury back then. Some versions of the story say it was mushrooms, vegetarian version, I guess, or vegan. But anyway, the mushrooms or the boar meat was tainted, was spoiled. And so the Buddha became violently ill, and he knew that he was about to die. And he laid down on his side, on his right side. And I chuckle at Victor here, and we had a statue of the reclining Buddha, and we suddenly discovered he was lying on his left side. It's like, wait a minute, we got to get that out of here. It's not scripturally sound. So I told Victor, I said, I think he was just taking a nap then. He was not going into his death at that time. So he entered into what's called his parinirvana, which is the ultimate nirvana, which can take place at death under the right circumstances. And he gave his last instructions to his disciples, because they were saying, who's going to take your place? Who should we pick to be the new Buddha? And he just said, be ye lamps unto yourself. Be ye lights unto yourself. So don't look to someone else for authority. And then his very last words were, strive on with diligence. In other words, continue the practice diligently. And so I think that's the sum total of what I have to say today, is strive on with diligence. But it's okay to enjoy the cake while you're doing that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robert. And so let's just take a moment to embody the teachings. It's important to drop out of the head and into the heart. The head wants to figure things out and record and write down, synthesize, analyze. That's just more doing. It can be important to remember to just let the heart resonate with the teachings. And so it might be a good idea, and is customary sometime, to now that we've finished the Dharma talk, to shift your posture, maybe stretch, move, take a conscious breath as we move into a heart practice. And a heart practice, in this case, is loving kindness or metta practice. And this is a practice that does not engage the thinking mind. And oftentimes there is a external or outward representation that can be brought about during a heart practice. Some people might want to form the Anjali Mudra, which is a heart focus. Others sometimes just place their hand on their heart, or you can do both hands. Or just your hands cupped in your lap is also absolutely acceptable as we move into metta practice. And we'll begin with a conscious breath together. And as you release, I invite you to bring to mind the image of you, a full body image of the form that has been given your name and that has accrued the many experiences over the years. And holding this image in your mind's eye, I invite you to recite silently to yourself these words of loving kindness or metta practice. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe from inner and outer dangers. May I be well in body and mind. And may I be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And as you release, I invite you now to bring to mind the image of a friend of yours. Holding this image of your friend in your mind's eye, let us open our hearts as we send metta. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe from inner and outer dangers. May you be well in body and mind. And may you be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And as you release that sentiment into the universe, I invite you now to bring to mind the image of an acquaintance, someone that you have met recently, or a new classmate or a coworker. And holding this image in your mind's eye, let us open our hearts as we send metta. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe from inner and outer dangers. May you be well in body and mind. And may you be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And as you release that sentiment into the universe, I invite you now to bring to mind the image of a difficult person in your life, a challenging person, perhaps a boss or a coworker, neighbor, classmate, or a political figure. And holding this image in your mind's eye, let us open our hearts as we send metta. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe from inner and outer dangers. May you be well in body and mind. And may you be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And as you release that sentiment into the universe, I invite you now to bring to mind the image of the world, all the plants and the flowers and the trees, animals of the land, the sea, the sky, and all sentient beings, including ourselves. Holding this image in your mind's eye, let us open our hearts as we send metta to us all. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be safe from inner and outer dangers. May we be well in body and mind. And may we be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And in the true spirit of Dana, the Buddhist practice generosity, temple services here are given freely. In the same way, if you choose to give, please give with a generous heart, which means not in return for anything that you have received today, but rather so that those who may be seeking refuge may find it here in this temple with these teachers, with these teachings, and with this Sangha. The Dana boxes are located at the back of the meditation hall, and we take a moment of gratitude for all of our wonderful ambassadors, those folks who have committed themselves to regular monthly electronic giving. It's not about the amount, it's just that the regular monthly giving helps us to set a budget here at Temple Buddhist Center. And also tremendous gratitude in our hearts for Rochelle. Thank you, Rochelle, for your music and for putting up with my placement of the balloon. I thought And thank you so much to Eric for all your media magic, and Liz, our digital diva, and all the folks at Help Temple Buddhist Center bring spiritual nourishment each and every day to members of our Sangha, both near and far. And also tremendous gratitude to Mr. Robert Brumet. Thank you, Robert, for your knowledge of the Dharma, your giant heart for sharing everything that you do here with Temple Buddhist Center. We are so honored, and it's just amazing to have you here. So Thank you. And thank you to each and every one of you for sharing your heart and your presence and your practice with all of us here at Temple Buddhist Center. We are the better for it. And so as we prepare now for, Judy, I'm looking at you. And so as we prepare for our bodhicitta dedication, we'll recite this one time together. Together, may the pure, brilliant sun of bodhicitta dawn in each and every heart and mind, dispelling the darkness of suffering and confusion unstoppably, until all are illumined and awakened. And with our hands together in front of our hearts, let us go forth now from this place, entering each moment in innocence, guided by the wisdom of our hearts. And as we open our hands, open our eyes, shine our light into the world, namaste. Thank you, everyone, so much. Just a couple of brief announcements. Did I mention there was cake? So there is cake downstairs in the hall. If possibly, maybe Karen or Zan or somebody, could you facilitate maybe chopping it up? And there's plates and forks and napkins and everything. And if you would like some, please join in this celebration of Vesak with us. And if you don't want cake, that's fine too. There's also coffee and tea and cookies downstairs. There are still a few spots left for our Vesak retreat, which begins Wednesday and goes through Saturday. You can attend either residentially, well, those are almost all filled up now, but you could commute, or you could also join virtually. And to a few of the folks who have texted me or sent me emails regarding the retreat, I will be sending out the information packet, possibly as early as tonight, but definitely by tomorrow, which will have all of the information that is necessary, including a resource folder online that you can use to help with your home retreat if you're doing it virtually at home. And also, just all kinds of great things coming up. Don't forget our post-service discussion group. Kyle and all the folks will meet right down the hall here to the left in the Heritage Room for a post-service discussion meeting. And I think it's okay to have cake in there, Kyle. I think so. If you guys go down and get one, bring it up. I mean, if not, you can blame it on me. And also our daytime Buddhist study group each Wednesday at 1, Buddha and the Bean every Tuesday with Karen and Matt at 9 a.m., coffee and celebration of awakening in all of its forms. And then, let's see. I think, and don't forget that every Tuesday and Thursday on Facebook Live, Temple Buddhist Center features a 30-minute meditation. So if you're at work or on lunch break or something, or just need an opportunity to kind of meditate with some members of the Sangha, please join us on Facebook Live. Just go to the Temple Buddhist Center Facebook page, and it'll pop right on there because it's a live Facebook Live presentation. So again, thank you all so much. I wish you all peace, blessings, cake, and umbrellas.